Level 1. The invitation. The envelope is sitting on your desk when you arrive. You didn't hear anyone come in. Your building has a key card entry system, a front desk, and a camera that covers the main corridor. None of it registered a visitor. The security log, when you check it later, will show nothing unusual. Inside is a single card, cream, heavy, the kind of paper that communicates before a single word is read that whoever sent this operates at a level where paper quality is not a consideration, it is a statement. 3 lines, a date, a time, an address in a part of the city you've passed through dozens of times without registering, old stone buildings, no signage, windows that don't quite catch light the way other windows do, and 4 words at the bottom in a font you don't recognize. Your presence is expected. Not requested, not cordially invited, not we'd love to have you, expected. You turn the card over, blank. You examine the envelope again. No postage, no stamp, no marking of any kind that would tell you how it arrived on a desk that was empty when you left it 40 minutes ago. There is one more thing, a detail, one line near the bottom of the card beneath the address that you almost read past before it stops you completely. It's specific. Personal, something about your life that isn't on your CV, your public profiles, or any records you can identify. Something that only a handful of people in your life would know, and even then, only 2 or 3 of them would think to mention it. Whoever sent this card has been watching you for longer than you have been watching for anything unusual. You go to the address. Of course you do. Level 2, the observation period. The first thing that surprises you is how ordinary it feels. No ceremony, no symbols, no dramatic reveal of hidden knowledge. For the first 6 weeks, the group, which is what everyone calls it, simply the group, no name, no acronym, no Latin title, moves you through a quiet rotation of social environments. Dinners in private dining rooms, a gallery evening where the pieces on the wall are not for sale to the public, and a weekend event at a property in the countryside where the guest list is never written down anywhere. The people you meet are not who you expected. No theatrics, no robes, no rings with hidden engravings. These are people who exist in a layer of professional life just above the layer you've previously occupied. People who are mentioned in newspapers not as subject, but as third references, the advisor to the advisor, the director behind the director. And they test you in ways that take you several weeks to recognize as tests. A senior member mentions at a dinner that a large infrastructure contract, currently in a public tender process, has already been decided. He says this the way you might mention the weather, without emphasis, without checking whether you react. The contract is awarded 3 weeks later exactly as he described. A different member tells you that a media story currently circulating and gaining significant traction will quietly disappear within 10 days. No explanation of how, no indication of who. It disappears in 8. The tests are not dramatic. They are calibration exercises. They are measuring something specific about you, not your intelligence, not your connections, not your usefulness, your discretion. Whether you can hold information that is explosive without being visibly warmed by it, whether the knowledge of power makes you reach toward it or simply file it quietly as data. 3 months in, a woman you've seen at 4 separate events sits beside you at dinner and says, without preamble, "You've done well. We'd like to move to the next conversation." She doesn't elaborate. She doesn't need to. The document runs to 19 pages. You are not given time to review it with counsel. You are not offered a summary. You are handed it, given 20 minutes in a side room to read it alone, and then escorted back to the table where 6 people sit, waiting with the patience of people who have done this many times before. The language is dense, legal in structure, but written in a register that predates modern corporate law, as if several centuries of careful drafting had layered themselves over an original text that was much simpler and much older. What you can determine, it is a confidentiality agreement, a non-disclosure instrument of unusual scope, and a binding commitment to something described in the final section as mutual assurance. The explanation of what mutual assurance means is given verbally, not in writing. Every member, you are told, contributes what the group calls a covenant deposit, not money, documentation, Personal records, professional correspondence, financial instruments, private communications, materials that are meaningful, materials that would be difficult to explain in a context stripped of nuance. These materials are held in what they call the archive, not as a threat, the voice explains, as a structure of mutual protection. Because every member at this table, the founders, the longest-serving members, the people who sat where you are sitting decades before you were invited, every one of them has made the same deposit. We are equally exposed, he says. That is precisely what makes this community safe. You sign. The room changes immediately. Not dramatically, but the quality of attention directed at you shifts. People who for 3 months have been warm at a careful distance become simply warm. A man who has never used your first name correctly does so now without hesitation. You feel something you haven't felt in years, the sensation of having been fully accepted somewhere. It is genuine. It is also, as you will later understand, the most carefully engineered moment in the entire process. Level 4. The Archive. 14 months after you signed, a door opens that most members never see behind. Not the archive itself, a description of how it actually works. Every covenant deposit is held across a distributed infrastructure, no single location, no single administrator with full access. Each member's materials are separated into fragments, stored across multiple jurisdictions, multiple legal custodians, multiple structures that exist independently in countries with no cross-border information sharing agreements. If a member leaves the group through what they call an honorable exit, formally with approval on terms agreed by the senior tier, their deposit is sealed, not returned, sealed, held indefinitely. Insurance, as they describe it, that operates in both directions. If a member leaves without approval, or speaks externally, or cooperates with any investigation, governmental, journalistic, independent, the fragments consolidate. You ask what consolidation means. He explains that the documents are not simply personal, they are contextualized. Teams whose existence you have not previously been made aware of have spent years constructing narrative frameworks around each member's materials, arranging them legally and sequentially so that their release tells a specific story, a story built to be damaging in the most precise way possible for that specific individual in their specific professional context. Some of those materials, you are told, as an aside, as if it barely merits noting, were not provided by the members themselves. They were gathered, before the invitation, during the observation period, quietly, comprehensively. The invitation was not the beginning of the process. It was the point at which the process was already complete. By the time you were sitting in that room with 11 strangers, reading a card and wondering how they knew the detail on the bottom line, they had already assembled everything they would ever need. The archive existed before you signed anything. The signing was a formality. Level 5. The Inner Sanctum. The inner tier has no ceremony marking your entry. You are simply present at a meeting, for the first time, where the actual decisions are made, not the category of decisions you've witnessed so far. The decisions made at this level are not about individual companies or individual votes. The operational management, the contract redirections, the media narratives, the share corrections, those are handled 2 tiers below. They are, in the context of this room, administrative. This room concerns systems, urban redevelopment projects, entire districts of major cities where the land acquisition happens in the 18 months before a public announcement that will make that land worth multiples of what was paid for it. Regulatory frameworks, currently being written by government departments that are shaped by input provided through channels that appear nowhere in any public consultation record. Arbitration processes involving disputes worth billions of dollars, whose outcomes, you learn, are known to 3 people in this room before the panels have convened. The screen at the far end activates. Every name on that list is managed, not members, people outside the group whose careers have been shaped quietly over years through funding structures, facilitated promotions, and a careful management of what information about them exists in which environments.
They are not aware of being managed. They believe they are simply talented, connected, and fortunate. Some of them have been on the list for 12 years. You recognize a name in the third column, not professionally, personally. Someone you have known for years. Someone whose advice at 2 specific moments in the last 3 years moved you directly toward this room. You sit with that for several seconds. Then the chair at the head of the table asks for your input on an agenda item. You answer clearly, correctly, with the kind of measured confidence that until 2 years ago you were still learning to perform. Nobody at this table performs anything anymore. The revelation. 4 years in, you have sat in the room where certain things are decided. You have watched outcomes that most of the world attributes to market forces, democratic process, or simple chance, and you know which ones weren't any of those things. You have said nothing externally. You have cooperated with nothing outside, and you have, over the last 8 months, quietly assembled something. Not the archive, you can't reach that, but enough. A specific set of materials that, if delivered to the right person, someone genuinely outside the group's managed network, someone whose independence you have verified carefully, would open a door that has never been opened from the inside. You have 2 options. You send it, you become a story the group cannot quietly resolve. Some of what happens in that room stops happening. Some of the people on that list come off it, and you and everything held in your name in the archive become a very public matter. Or you don't. You remain exactly where you are, the most consequential room in a building that officially doesn't exist, making decisions that shape things you once assumed were beyond the reach of any single group of people. This organization has operated for over 300 years. Its single greatest asset has never been the archive. It has been this moment. The moment when someone who finally has enough to act decides whether they still want to. Would you send it? If you made it this far, you already know the answer says more about you than it does about them. Subscribe. New video every few days.